Shut up and sit down.
Welcome back, MXGP fans. All right, today we are going to rank every single track in MXGP Pro, kind of discuss each one, and number 19 coming in last place, in my opinion, is Pangkal Pinang in Indonesia. You see there's a common thread here with these tracks. They're just built out on a flat area, and unfortunately it looks like this is what the track editor is going to be like in MXGP 2019. You're just going to get a large open space, truck in some dirt, and there's your track. I dislike this track a whole bunch, maybe because it was the first track of one of the first tracks of the season, but I found it had a lot of problems, places where you would just wreck in these corners for no reason. You know, these phantom ruts some people talk about. I don't know, I just really disliked it. Just the layout, the obstacles was not fun at all. No disrespect to anybody in Indonesia, but there's actually going to be 2 races in Indonesia next year, or I'm sorry, in 2019, MXGP 2019, the game also. So I'm assuming they're going to be very similar to this. Not very fun. This was my worst track that I disliked the most. All right, number 18, Orlyonok in Italy. This is the same thing. It looks like they just trucked in some dirt. It's out in a flat area. No elevation changes at all. The track itself, it's not bad. It's funner than the Indonesian race, but again, I tend to like tracks that are have some elevation changes, more natural ups and downs in the terrain. And again, this is all just my opinion on what type of tracks I like. So hey, if in the comments, why don't you run down your list of your favorite tracks in the game? We'll see if we differ or not. I'm sure we will. Again, this track wasn't bad. It actually raced okay. There was some fun lines in it. Yeah, but again, I tend to not like just these flat tracks. This was the largest hill on the whole place. All right, number 17, Lommel in Qatar. Again, another flat track, just made out in the desert, I guess. You know, they didn't have any hills to do this in. The only thing that's really cool about this track is it is the only race that is at nighttime. So it looks pretty cool under the lights. Other than that, man, I wish MXGP could get away from this, and this track, man, it's not that fun. I don't know what to say. These flat tracks just do not do it for me. And thankfully, in 2019, they did not race at Lommel, so we will not have to ride this track again in MXGP 2019, the game. I have to admit, it isn't a very bad track. I think just because it was the first race of the season for so many years, it's been in so many of these MXGP games, it's just gotten really boring. And it seems like it's the same track every year, when I think they could just push this dirt around a little bit different in this field. Again, flat tracks, not doing it for me. All right, number 16, the French track, Villars-sous-Écot. You know, this one, it ranked really low for me, which is a surprise because it has a lot of elevation changes. There was just some weird obstacles on the track. I didn't like it that much, even though it had a lot of elevation changes, which were nice. Just some of the things like this straightaway coming up right here is really narrow with that weird little bump there. Gets narrow there. That bank off to the left was weird. Man, I like that downhill right there. This next section is really weird. Man, I guess in real life, you're gonna have to really commit to this jump right here, this double over this gap. You know, maybe that's easy on a 450. I don't know, man, but it's kind of crazy. Man, I should have liked this track more with all the elevation changes. It just, for some reason, I just think with the obstacles, it wasn't fun. You know, you can over jump everything, and this was really the only rough section of these rollers right here, of the whole track. So again, didn't do it for me. Right, number 15, Assen. This is a track they just cart in a whole bunch of sand into the Assen TT MotoGP track. This one, it seems like, should rank lower, but the only reason I really rank this higher is because it is a super rough track. So Milestone did a really good job at making this track rough. I don't know why they can't make all their other tracks this rough, or at least get them this rough after a certain amount of time in the race. You can really feel in the controller, in the controls, how rough this track is, and I really like that about it. As far as the track itself, not very fun. This track will not be, or it shouldn't be. It's not a regular race in MXGP 2019, the season. It is the location for the 2019 designations, though. So whether or not they probably will, I bet you, will release this track as DLC and make us pay for it, which that I probably will not want to do. Anyways, a very rough track. I like that about it, and that's the only thing really going for it, I think. Right, number 14, Teutschenthal in Germany. Man, I thought I would like this track a little bit more also, but for some reason, I don't know. I think it's going to be these little S section that's coming up. I just really did not like them. It's super tight. It looks great with like the carnival rides and stuff. The surroundings of this track look awesome. I didn't really like these S turns. It gets really tight, really small. You can over jump this and totally wreck. I don't know. This little section here especially, you're going to come through here, and then you can't over jump this hill right here, and man, it's just weird. I know that's how the track really is, but it's not very fun. And then you got this huge hill. You got to hit the brakes or downshift or just get off the gas so you don't over jump that. I did run into a couple problems, a couple of those phantom ruts, like to pull the front end down. Not very fun. Again, this one just, it was an okay track for me. Number 13, Neuquén in Argentina. This track is actually pretty fun. I thought I would rank a little bit higher. I went back and forth where it should be. It's not. it's not the greatest track. There are some fun obstacles. This huge, kind of like a triple tabletop. This section coming up right here is probably the funnest in my opinion. You know, the step down into this wave section. For some reason, the track just seems very short to me. It doesn't seem like you're going anywhere. I don't know that it is shorter than any of the other ones. The lap times seem to say it's about the same. But it just, for some reason, I don't know. Compared to some of the other tracks, didn't do it for me. And then watch this huge line you can take here. I don't think this is very realistic. I don't think Hurlings is jumping to that tabletop with all the banners and stuff on top of it. It looks pretty dangerous. Anyways, Neukum. It was an okay track. Number 12, Kegums in Latvia. This track is actually really fun. It's been around for a while. It's a pretty easy track to get to know, and you can pretty much, you know, there's a couple places I did have problems with some of the lines, grabbing the front wheel, pulling you down. Yeah, there's a few of these jumps, these tabletops, they are just way too small, I think. You can over jump them so far, it doesn't seem realistic to me. You know, even on the 250s, you can over jump it quite a ways. And this little burn right here is kind of weird. They have the two lines there. Outside doesn't really work good. Right, number 11, the often popular Lommel in Belgium. Man, the best thing about this track is how rough it is. You know, they did a really good job of conveying that. For some reason, though, I didn't really enjoy the track. You know, I remember it from older games as well. Pretty much just a flat-out track. I want to like it more, but I just didn't. Really though, I do like how rough it is, and why can't they do that on all the tracks? Man, even if they could change the tracks after every lap by just, you know, putting in a different, I don't know what the correct term is, the height map possibly on the terrain, just adjust the height map in certain areas. Man, even if we can't do ruts, just adjust the bumps everywhere, and that would be pretty cool, I think, if the bumps changed every lap or every few laps if you're doing a longer race. Would be really cool, I think. But this track really conveyed the bumps really well. Right, number 10, Ernée in France. This one, a lot of people seem to like this one. It has, yeah, probably the most elevation changes out of any of the tracks. You know, that is really cool. A lot of off cambers. Man, when I was doing my MX2 race on this track, I had the hardest time. It's very hard to race on, I think. Especially with the pro physics. There was lots of places to go down. You had to be very careful right here on this off camber. You cannot use the throttle too much. A lot of these tight corners right here, I'd catch these phantom ruts, tuck the front. I would not know what's going on. These off cambers at the bottom of the hill is very tough. I wanted to rank this track higher, but man, just the actual racing of it against the AI was not very fun for me. The track itself, though, really cool. Really cool on the elevation changes. And I do not think this one is going to be in MXGP 2019. And you can rail that bottom of that hill, that berm is a pretty fun line too, instead of cutting to the inside. This is a tough little chicane here. All right, number 9, WW Ranch in the USA. This track, I honestly haven't raced on it too much. It seems like this would be one that I would not like because it is just out in a pretty much an open field out in Florida. And it is the narrowest, I think, of all the tracks in this game. There are a lot of areas you'll see coming up, especially at the end of the lap, where it's just super narrow. Like right here, just trying to keep it straight and in the track. Man, I don't know why they made it so narrow, and I don't know if it's really like that in real life, but ooh, man, trying to keep it in there is tough. But the track itself is pretty fun. The environment looks okay. You know, it's a lot funner than some of the other tracks that ranked below it that were just on the flat, out in the flat ground. So overall, not bad. It's a fun track, just super narrow. And does anybody know what happened to Jordi Tixier? I haven't seen him in the results in a while. I think he was a MX2 champion a few years ago. I don't know what happened. I'll have to look up what happened to him. Yeah, this part right here, it is so narrow. Right here and right here. Man, very narrow. Number 8, Frauenfeld in, I believe, Switzerland. This one is another, it's kind of out in a flat field also, but man, for some reason I really enjoyed it. I don't know, I got the sense that I was actually going someplace in this one. There is one little elevated section of elevation. You kind of jump up a hill. Not a lot though. But everything seems sized really well. All the jumps. There was some interesting, you know, the environment where the crowd is. Here's that little, you know, jump up to this little area here. And then you jump back down. Not a lot of elevation change there, but most of the obstacles were, I think, sized appropriately. This was an interesting little wall jump right here. And as far as these the tracks that were out in the flat field, it seemed like this was one of my favorites next to the WW Ranch. I think you can hit a huge line here. I wasn't able to do it, but I think I overjumped that. But this right here, I think you could probably triple over to that. Whether you could stop before that corner or not, man, that'd be something. And this is actually a weird place to put the finish line. I know it's right by the start, but it's I guess it's back where all the staging is, but the crowd can't even see the finish line, most of the crowd. Number 7, Italy, Pietramurata. This track's been around for a while, different games. It has a lot of natural elevation changes. A lot of it seems like a big track, it feels like a big track, so it is pretty fun. And those mountains in the background, I guess I'm gonna guess those are the Italian Alps. Man, those look really nice. This will be, I believe, in the MXGP 2019 game. I did see they had a work in progress gameplay video. Looks pretty much the same. I know they did update the graphics a little bit. They changed the color palette, made it a little bit more saturated, so it's not as washed out. So it does look a little bit better, I think, in MXGP 2019. Alright, then we got the famous little jump and straightaway where Ryan Villapoto looped out a few years ago and broke his coccyx. Man, that kind of ruined his last season of racing. Kind of sucks for all us RV fans. Number 6, Valkenswaard. This is an all-out pedal to the metal, fast as you can go sand track. Man, it is stressful to race on. It is fun, but man, you're going so fast. There are some very rough areas of it, and it is a very fun track to race on. The best braking bumps down the hill right here. Why they can't put more of those in on other tracks, I don't know why they chose to put them in right there. This little corner straightaway roller section, very difficult, very fun too. And this hairpin coming up, it bit me a lot of times. There's a phantom rut in there somewhere. It grabs you. This is probably one of the roughest corners in the whole game. Ooh, man. And luckily, this will be in MXGP 2019, the game. Number 5, Orlyonok in the Russian Federation. Man, watch this huge double I'm going to attempt. Cannot quite get over it. Bounced over it though. Can only do that on the 450 MX2 bike, 250s. Can't even get close. So this track was very fun. And I went back and forth if it should be higher on my list or not. This corner right here, you can flat out pass the AI there every time. Just hold it wide open around that corner. Very fun. It is a very fun track. Like I said, I went back and forth if this should rank a little bit higher on my list. But there's a few other tracks on it that I just liked a little bit more than this one. It's all subjective anyways, so again, in the comments, let me know what you guys think. What is your ranking? List it out. Even what's your top 5 and what's your worst 5 tracks in the game. This little section here is fun. MX2 bike, I had a very hard time clearing this huge table. And I threw it away right there in my MX2 career race. Oh man, I was leading so easy. Right, my number 4 track is Loket. It has a ton of elevation changes, and it is just very fun. It seems like it has a little bit of everything. It was fun to race on. It just, you know, this little section here, it just seems like you're in a different track, and then you'll pop out of this section, go back down the hill, and you're out in the woods again. MX2 bikes in the rain are not fun at all going up this hill. 450s, they tractor right up it though. And again, lots of elevation changes. It was, again, really fun to race on. I liked it better than a few of the French tracks that had a lot of elevation changes. So that's why this one ranks up pretty high for me. You know, it was like, I don't want to say a simpler track. I didn't have a lot of problems with the physics getting me on this track. All right, my top 3. Number 3, Leon in Mexico. This one sits at the number 3 spot for me because it happens to be, I think, the roughest track in the game. Why they couldn't do this for all the other tracks is beyond me. The other ones are like pavement compared to this track. You know, it made you feel like you're on an actual MX track with the amount of bumps that it has. You know, really cool. Yeah, and again, just a nice rough track. No really huge obstacles. No big lines you can really take, but man, just looking at it is really cool. Again, why can't Milestone do that on all of the other tracks and make it this rough? All right, my number 2 track, Uddevalla in Sweden. I really like this track. I was really debating making this my favorite number 1 track. It just seems like it goes on forever. And what it reminds me of is Uddevalla in the U.S. The grass, you know, going through grass fields, going through the little dips, kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a little, not a ravine or a little canyon, but it just reminds me so much of Uddevalla. Really cool track, and it just seems like it goes on forever and ever. You just keep going and going. You know, and that corner right there was really fun. You could really rail it. I didn't do a good job that time, but it was really fun. Just when you think, you know, when is this lap over? And nope, you still got to keep on going. It does get narrow in a few spots, but again, I think it's the Uddevalla factor for me. Uddevalla, really nice track. My number 2. I really debated to be number 1. And there you go. That's a nice one. My number 1 track, Agueda in Portugal. Man, I bet you a lot of you will probably disagree with me, but this track, for some reason, it just did something for me. I loved racing on it. Did not really have any problems with physics. The AI had a lot of problems going off the track in a lot of spots when I raced in my MX2 career. But just this track flowed really nice. That was the most important part, I think, was the flow. You know, it felt nice, and everything, all these corners connected really good together. The track, there's really nothing too special about it as far as, you know, it has a little bit of elevation change. But as far as obstacles, nothing real big or really special. But again, I think it was just that feeling of flow that I had. Man, it just did something for me, and so I ranked this my number one. I kept going back and forth, you know, should it be one of those other ones? But again, this is one of the tracks I had the most fun racing on. And again, I know everybody's going to be different, and I'd probably even change my mind. But hey, that's all the tracks. We went through them all. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, leave me a thumbs up, leave me some comments. What are your favorite tracks? What are you looking forward to in MXGP 2019? And what's the worst tracks? Which ones do you absolutely hate? All right, guys, thanks a lot, and I'll catch you on the next one.